What is up, everyone?
Welcome to another episode of the Marz Pod. I am Nathan Marzian, as always, joined by Brandon Eckel. And we got some Bucks Bulls Game 1 stuff to get to. Game 1 was on Sunday. It's now Tuesday. Game 2 is tomorrow. So we'll recap Game 1, do a little preview of Game 2. And we also have all NBA picks to get to. So, plenty to talk about. And let's get into it. So, Bucks Bulls. Bucks got the dub, 93-86. They are up 1-0 in the series, but definitely not the most convincing win. Definitely not the prettiest win. It looked good in the first quarter. They won the first quarter 34-21, and after that, they scored 59 points total in the final three quarters. So the offense died. It got ugly, turned the ball over a lot. Chris and Drew were not good, but ultimately, the Bulls went up by, 5 or 7?
Yeah.
Late in that third quarter before Giannis came back in and got us the lead going into the fourth. Maybe it was tied, but we got going into the fourth. And then, of course, we got the win. That's all that really matters. But what are your thoughts? And then we'll get to my thoughts. But first, what are your thoughts on Game 1? How are you feeling? And just overall with the ugly win?
Well, first off, we were kind of lucky that Levine was kind of and DeRozan really struggled. So that was a plus. But to come out of there with a win with how bad we played overall. Holiday started picking up in the fourth. I think he finished with 15 or so points.
Yeah, I have it up in front of me. Yeah, 15.
But Middleton wasn't good. He had 7 turnovers. Nothing crazy off the bench, I don't think. Like, Bobby was good, not great. And Vucevic kind of killed us, but I don't know. He was getting some BS calls down low. Like, anytime we tried to guard him in the post, they would call like tiki-tack fouls because they're trying to, put the arm bar there, which is all you can do because he just lowers his shoulder. But overall, I was just happy that we played bad and still got the win. So that makes me feel good.
Yeah, ultimately, and I said this right away, this felt like the game that if the Bulls were going to win a game, this just was like the one they were primed to do it with the way we played. 21 turnovers for the Bucks, as you said, 7 from Chris. They turned over a ton, and there were just some really dumb ones. Chris and Drew both struggled, and as you said, Drew picked it up a little bit in the fourth, ended up 6 of 16, but combined, Chris and Drew were 10 of 29, which is not going to get it done usually. No. Giannis was in foul trouble in the fourth, had to sit for a while, and then, got taken out in the last minute and stuff. Bucks overall were 26% from 3. Chris was 1 of 7, Brooke 1 of 5, Drew 1 of 4, Pat 1 of 6, Grayson 0 for 2. Just nobody could really hit threes. We did get a lot of good looks though, which I think bodes well for us going forward. I mean, of the teams in their first game in round 1, game 1, Bucks had 25 wide open threes. The next closest in the league had 19. So we were, we generated a ton of good looks, just did not hit a bunch. We only shot 32% on those threes. So again, like I said, this seemed like the game, so much went wrong for the Bucks. They played so badly that it was like, if the Bulls are going to take a game somehow or steal a game, like this was the one to do it. They just happened to play even worse than we did. DeRozan 6 of 25, Levine 6 of 19, Vucevic 9 of 27. As a team, they were 19% from 3. Like neither team deserved to win this game. Neither team played well, but ultimately, the Bucks did just enough to win it, made just enough plays at the end to win this game, and I guess sucked less than the Bulls did. Going off, so as I said, Drew and Chris struggled. I know we kind of have gotten used to Chris is going to be inconsistent at times. He's going to have some really good moments. He's going to have some moments where he struggles. That's kind of, there's a reason he's not a superstar because he's not a consistent star. As far as Drew, we saw this year and last year, great in the regular season. Last year, he declined in the playoffs quite a bit offensively, shooting-wise. But do you expect, and I've talked about this in other podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your take on it. I think, we got your take on it last time where you said, do you expect the decline in the playoffs? We both said we do expect him to decline a little bit. We expect him to, when he's ramping up his intensity defensively, decline a little bit, but not quite to the level of last year. And again, like this last night or Sunday night, he declined, but it wasn't something where like he was killing you. It wasn't some major like he wasn't playing terrible. and he picked it up at the end a little bit to make it look a little bit better than it was. So ultimately, I mean, again, I'm expecting him to decline. I just hope it's not this massive decline that we saw last year, where like every game it feels like he's, like, oh, he's 3 for 10. Like I just don't want to see that. And I know we kind of talked about this already, right?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it last pod, and I mean, you and I both kind of agreed, like, especially because he had such a great season this year, like even more so. Yeah, I don't expect him to play the level he did all year because he was great all year. However, even though it's safe to expect a little bit of a decline, not playing as well in the playoffs, it just like the first 3 quarters were again like, holy crap, like he couldn't hit a shot, kind of some dumb turnovers, and it just makes you worry a little more because that was the exact game that you and I said, look, if these 2 guys aren't on, we're screwed against the elite teams. Yeah. The Boston Celtics, the Nets, the Heat, whether you think these teams are great or not, if you meet them later on, obviously a team like the Suns, you're going to get ran off the floor if you play like that because they just have enough role guys that they don't have to depend on like those top guys as much. We know what Chris Paul is going to bring. We know what D-Book's going to bring. So it's like you need those guys to play well. But hopefully they get those games out early and get that out of the way before we get farther in the playoffs.
Yeah, if we played a legitimately like again, I'm not trying to knock the Bulls too much, but like we played a legitimately really, really good team, like we would have lost this game 100%.
Yeah.
We just got lucky that the Bulls were even worse than we were. Another thing I wanted to talk about, Giannis getting taken out with, it was like just over a minute left. Bucks were at the free throw line up 3, and Giannis had 5 fouls. Bud took him out and then Brook ended up missing the free throw, so Giannis was out for the defensive possession. We got to stop. Had the ball up 3 with like a minute left. Giannis was out for the possession. We turned it over. Bulls go down and miss. And then we ended up getting fouled with like 15 seconds left, and Giannis came back in. So he basically sat for like 45 seconds there, almost a minute of like crucial game time. What was your take on that? Because I certainly have a take, but I want to hear yours first.
I mean, I feel like I'm sorry, repeat again, like, because I remember him being out, but did he take him out? Like, was there free throws or were we going to be on defense? I don't remember exactly when he took him out.
Brook was on the line. It was about a minute 15 left, I'd say.
Yeah.
Brook was on the line, and it was after Brook's first free throw. So Brook was taking his second free throw, and Giannis got taken out during the free throws. So then he was out for a defensive possession, an offensive possession, another defensive possession, and then we got fouled.
I will say, because once, I saw him take him out, and then I figured once they missed, we were going to call timeout. Giannis come back in. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was surprised we didn't call timeout. And that's where I could understand. I'm not sure what you're going to say, but being upset, especially because, we didn't end up getting a basket out of it. But I don't know, like, I didn't read into it too much because it just kind of felt like one of those Budenholzer things to do. Like, oh, I'm trying to, like, play it safe. He's got 5 fouls, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I was surprised we didn't call timeout after the miss by the Bulls and we got the rebound. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing is, so I somewhat can wrap my head around taking him out for the defensive possession because if the Bulls really want to, they can try to just go right at him and flop or whatever and get a foul or anything. So I can somewhat understand. You're like, okay, he's not quite, like, we don't quite need him for this defensive possession. He's very valuable defensively, but you can live a defensive possession without him. Make sure in case this game does go to overtime or something, you still have him.
Yes.
But as soon as you get the ball back, you need him on offense. Like that's when I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm sitting there watching with 50 seconds left, you're up 3, and the best player in the world is standing there at the scores table, like, and you have 2 timeouts left. I'm like, okay, get him to check in. I can kind of understand the defense. Like, I don't agree with it really as a whole. Like, I would have just never taken him out, but I can at least a little bit understand the defensive side of it. And I think Budenholzer said something about if the Bulls would have scored, he would have called timeout and gotten him back in. But since they didn't, he didn't. But again, I don't really think that changes much. Like I still would have. You have 2 timeouts. I would have just called out either way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that offensive possession was not good. The Bucks turned it over, and then LaVine chucked up a 3. Like, we got kind of lucky there. That if we would have lost this game, like that would have been a huge story of like why did he take Giannis out? Giannis was visibly pretty upset about it when he did get taken out. Like you could see him kind of confused. So I definitely had an issue with it. I definitely did not agree with it. But I've seen people defending it. I've seen people that are like, oh, well, Giannis had 5 fouls. I'm like, I get that, but put him in on offense. Like you have 2 timeouts. Why not just take a timeout and put him in offensively? But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
or go ahead.
I was just gonna say my thing too is like I feel like too often coaches look into that too much. Like, oh, he's got 5 fouls, and I get that to a certain extent when there's a lot of time left. But what's the sense of sitting a guy?
Yeah, because then he's basically fouling out either way if you're going to sit him.
So now you just don't have him on the court. He's not helping you anyways. So why don't you just take the risk of putting him out there? He's a smart enough player.
Yeah, and he had just played like because someone was just saying they're like if you put him in there, the Bulls defenders are just gonna flop like on defense and make sure he gets fouled out. I'm like he played for 3 minutes right before this and didn't foul out. Like it's not like he had just gotten his 5th foul. Like I don't know. I just didn't.
The refs are going to know that they're going after him too. They're not just going to call a ticky-tack foul. Yep. I mean, clearly they could have called the foul before that on a potential over the back, and they didn't, which is I don't know if you wanted to touch on that at all. But it's like they're going to officiate a little differently when they know players are going to go at him. You know, like, oh, he's got 5 fouls. They're going to just try to draw a foul.
Yeah. The over the back thing, I think it could have gone either way 100%. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was 100% the right call, but I do think I can see the argument for, again, either side. Like, I can see that you could see it being over the back, but also when Giannis does leave his feet, you're not allowed to, like, box him out any further or else the foul. Yeah. So then that's what he did. Like, I can see that. So not a huge problem with, again, if they would have called it over the back, I think it was dumb of Giannis to even try that when you have 5 fouls. So I'm not going to, if he would have fouled out on that, I'm not going to blame the ref. But yeah, overall, again, I just did not agree with taking him out there for those final, at least I definitely didn't agree with the offensive. I can at least somewhat understand the defense. Yeah. But speaking of Giannis, another thing that makes me, made me optimistic in this game is we dominated when he was on the court. Plus 19 with him in the game, and they were minus 12 with him out of the game in his 14 minutes out of the game. They took him out in the third, and that's right when the Bulls had like a 13-0 run to take the lead. Giannis comes back in, and we have like a 10-2 run immediately. Like it was like it's literally just Giannis being on the court or off the court. And so again, makes me feel better that okay, when Giannis was in this game, the Bucks dominated, and I understand not being able to play him a ton in the fourth because of the foul trouble. He picked up his 5th right away, but definitely could have played him more in the first half, I thought. And I thought Bud got a little cute in the first half with giving him rest and everything. But at the same time, it did look at the beginning like this game could get out of hand and you wouldn't need him a ton. But yeah, so Bucks offensive rating with Giannis on the court compared to off the court. On the court, 102.9 in this game. Off the court, 60. That's points per 100 possessions. Defensive rating on the court, 76.8 points allowed per 100 possessions. Off the court, 100 points allowed per 100 possessions. So their net rating, basically point differential per 100 possessions. With him on the court, they were plus 26. With him off the court, they were minus 40. Absolutely insane.
Shows yes.
Yeah, I mean it was crazy. Like this was one of those games where you're like, he needs to be on the court, and when he's not, it can get bad. When he's on the court, we're going to be just fine. So, again, assuming that's probably going to continue moving forward, like if he's not in foul trouble, we should be fine. Like we should take care of business. Everything should go pretty smoothly. One last thing I wanted to talk about is just briefly, and it doesn't have to be a huge thing, but Giannis's free throws. He was 6 of 11 in this game. Not terrible. I think he started 3 of 8, and he made 3 of. I think he made his last 3. So I think he was 2 of 6 at some point too. So like he started poorly. every year it seems, and the numbers back this up. Every year he does dip from the line in the playoffs. Hasn't been. I believe the stat is he hasn't been over 70% in a series since the very first series he ever played, which was that 2015 Bulls series. So it's been a long time since he's, and 70% is just like decent, So it's been a long time since he's even been decent in a single playoff series. And in terms of the playoffs year to year, so since 2017, 2017 he dipped 77% in the regular season, 54% in the playoffs. 2018 he went from 76 to 69. 2019 he went from 73 to 64. 2020 he went from 63 to 58. 2021 69 to 59, and then 2022 he's 72% in the regular season. If he can stay anywhere close to that, he should be fine. But again, historically he's dipped a lot in the playoffs, pretty much every year. So are you confident that Giannis can at least hit a decent amount of his free throws in that 65 to 70% range? I can understand dipping a little bit. He's going to be, more tired when he goes to the line because he's given a little bit more defensively, a little bit more overall. I can understand the dip, but I don't want this to be another where he's shooting in the 50s,
No, for sure. And I think 70 and above, I am always going to be happy with from him because people got to remember he's a big man who just isn't a very good shooter in general. So if he can shoot 70% from the line, that's great. But I am confident he can turn it on for probably only one reason, and that's what he did in the finals. He showed us he could do it in the biggest moment possible. So that's why I'm not nervous. However, and like you said, part of it's because of the energies, he's given in the playoff, trying a little more, playing more minutes, whatever. But when he needs to be locked in, I'm confident he will be. So maybe he just needs to work on, hey, if I get to the line, I got to really focus, deep breath, whatever he does. But I'm confident that he'll be consistent enough. Hopefully, better than last year's dip in the playoffs, even though the first game he struggled.
Yeah, again, at least just give me 65-ish%. Like you can dip a little bit, but don't be. And my thing too is limit the number of like bad games that you're having. Because in the past, he's had some games, I think in that Toronto series and other playoff games, and just in the past in general, even in the regular season, he's had a lot of like games where it's like you're 3 for 10, like you're killing us right now, like this, and it just adds on, and then the defense picks up on it, and it's like, okay, like let's follow him, let's make and this season, the regular season, he's been a lot better at limiting the number of bad games he's had. He's been more consistently around that 65, 70 rather than like, have a stretch shooting 85 and then a stretch shooting 50. And then it's like, I'd rather just have him consistently at one level. So hopefully, and again, he was 6 of 11, which is like 55%, below what you want, but he did pick it up. He started really badly and picked it up a little bit. So just something to keep an eye on. I hope he can, again, be at least 65%-ish. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens there. And he should be fine. Again, the game 6 stuff gives you so much more confidence knowing that he has the mental strength to do that. Like we did question that. People question that. Like, is it just a mental thing? Is he able to actually step up in a playoff game in these huge moments and hit a bunch of free throws? Yes, he is. We saw that. So, all right, let's move on to all NBA teams. We have our picks we did our awards, we did our playoff predictions, but we still have to do our all NBA picks. I'm going to share my screen here and get this going. But, so we each have all 3 all NBA teams that we're picking. All right, here we go. So I'll let you start for first team. We'll start with we'll go just the guard positions. Give me who you have as the guard positions.
My first guard, I'll just go with who was a lock for me, was Devin Booker. Been great all year. #1 team in the West and in obviously the league. And then I have Luka, who was maybe snubbed as a starter in the All-Star game. Really played well down the stretch, got the Mavs to the 4 seed in the West, and just had a really solid year and played a good amount of games.
I also have those 2. I think honestly, like for me, Luka is a little bit more of a lock than Booker, and I mean, I'm not trying to hate on Booker. like I could see Ja being above Booker, honestly. But I'll give it to definitely Booker just because, again, best player on the best team in the league. They've been best team consistently. I think someone on that team deserves to be first team. So, and they're not getting the recognition with MVP and stuff like that. Not that they should, but I'm just saying they're not getting that. So I'll give them the first team nod and give Booker first team. But Josh certainly puts up very similar numbers. Ja's right up there with him. But I mean, Booker is great. We're seeing it right now. He has 31.5 as we're speaking. So yeah. So Booker and Luka are definitely two, I think, likely first team guard picks. And then at the forwards, so what's interesting is, everyone. Well, let's just pencil in Giannis as the lock. We know I'm picking Giannis. I'm assuming you're picking Giannis too.
Yep.
Okay. So we both have Giannis. After that, what's interesting is they're letting us, there is the option of having both Embiid and Jokic on here rather than just one at center, and then you have to pick a different forward, and then one of the others has, Jokic or Embiid is forced to be in the second team. They're letting voters put both Embiid and Jokic on here. And I just think that they've both been, me personally, they've both been so dang good, and they're both two of the top 3 players in the NBA this year, that I have to put them both on here. I'm putting Embiid at center, and I'm putting Jokic at forward. So I just think they've both been, if I had to pick just one, I'd pick Jokic and move Embiid to second team. But I don't think I don't want to put Embiid second team. He deserves a first team, selection here. And so that's what I'm doing. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Embiid's going to get moved to second team. But that's how I have it. I mean, I just think they've both been good enough that I'm putting them both on the first team.
I don't know what you want me to do here, Nate. If you want me to stay with what I got or stay with who's more deserving, what do you think? Where should I go?
Stay with what you got.
Okay. So what I got is I have Jokic at center. I do know now we're also kind of doing like our picks. Like you said, it's not as so much like what we think, even though it's a little bit, it's just more so what we think ourselves.
Yeah, not what we think is going to happen, what we think, what our picks would be.
So Embiid definitely deserving, but like you said, there's a good chance he gets moved down because of this stuff. I went with a guy that I don't really like, LeBron James, at the other forward spot.
You are insane.
He still had a tremendous year for the Lakers. One problem was he sat a lot of games. But, man, he was the one bright spot on a very disappointing, very bad Laker team. But I'll give him the nod.
I am borderline speechless at this point.
You told me to stay with what I got, so I had to go with what I had.
Okay. Well, we'll get to LeBron in a little bit. I do not agree with that, but we'll get to LeBron. Okay, second team. I'm going to start with the guard spots in the second team.
Okay.
I have Ja, as I said, I have Ja as my second team, my first guard. I think there is a case for him to be first team, but I'm not going to put him there.
Yeah.
And then I have Trey Young, who also has been fantastic all season. 29 and 10 per 36. That's 10 assists. And so, pretty good efficiency for how he's guarded. So definitely worthy of second team for me. Both those guys have been fantastic. Two of the bright young stars at guard in the league. I mean, all these guys are Luka, Devin Booker. Like, the league is in such good hands. But
so we got a little differentiation here again, which I like. I got Ja locked in. He would have been, the next guard. It was kind of between him and Luka for me personally. Second guard, I got Steph.
I disagree.
His points per game were a little down, but considering Clay was out for a while, Draymond missed a lot of time. Warriors still managed to get the 3 seed. He was Steph, so I think he's deserving of at least a chance at second team.
I think there's a chance, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it because he's Steph Curry, and I love Steph Curry. I also hold him to a very high standard, knowing what he's able to do, and I don't think he was very close to that standard this year. So I definitely would not have him second team. Like again, I think Ja and Trey Young have been ahead of him for a while now. Like Steph. I mean, if it was based on the first month of the season and we were doing this a month in, like Steph would probably be first team. But he dipped, and again, those Ja and Trey were very good all season, and I'm giving them the nod over him. Onto the forward position, second team, I'm going with Jason Tatum, and I'm going with Kevin Durant. And it is weird not having KD on the first team. Like if you're going based on the top 5 players in the world, if you're going based on the top 5 players in the world, then you definitely are putting Kevin Durant in the first team. But again, there's so many, and with the way they do it with the positions, like it's just impossible. For me at least, I'm like, I'm not putting him above. With you, I don't know how you have LeBron over KD, but whatever. I'm not putting, for me, I'm like, I have Embiid center, I have Jokic power forward, and Giannis forward. I'm not putting him above Jokic or Giannis. Like he hasn't been better than them, so I'm just kind of left. I have to put him second team, which feels wrong, but I guess that's what I'm doing. And then, as I said, I have Tatum too, who's been very good and really, I mean, probably a top 7 MVP candidate this season, maybe top 5. I mean, he's up there. So, but KD at his usual, I mean, 29, 7, and 6 per 36, and 56% from mid range, dude. Like, yeah, it's absurd. 56% from mid range, but all right.
He is a definition of a 3-level scorer, and it's crazy to see a 7-footer do it.
Yeah.
So if you want mine, I don't know if it really matters if you have Tatum above Durant, whatever. I went KD, then Tatum.
Yeah, I just put him, like, it doesn't really matter.
Sure, yeah, probably it's second team, so it's not like it's really a ranking there. And then obviously I have Embiid at center. So if I had to change, obviously I would have had LeBron. I don't know. I don't even want to get into it then. I probably would have had him second team, Embiid first. But I tried to keep it with one per position.
Yeah, or go ahead. Yeah,
even though I know they can vote that way.
I don't even have LeBron second team personally, but
wow.
We'll see if I even have him third team.
Well, yeah, I guess I assume with center now, but
yeah. So then, my center, Karl Anthony Towns, has had a very good year all season. I don't think. I mean, 41% from 3 as a center is
absurd.
One of the best shooting big men of all time.
Yeah.
I don't think I still think, he's got a little bit to go to become, a superstar, but he's there. He's consistently like right on the cusp of that. And I think he's worthy of a second team. Not here again. Like I feel bad having him third team, like if you had to, again, bump, because if you put Jokic or Embiid, just one of them at center, like you have to bump one of them down, and then Cat gets bumped down. I think he's deserving of second team, so I'm happy with how I have this. And then let's move on to third team. I'll let you start with the guards on the third team.
Okay, so my guards then are Trey Young, and then I got Chris Paul as the other guard.
A couple of these, like there's guys you can put at guard or forward, so it'll be interesting to see because I have someone at guard that you might have at forward.
Okay.
My first guard is Steph Curry, who, again, as I mentioned, like I love Steph. I think he's been below his standards pretty significantly this year. Still 27, 6, and 7 per 36, but 38% from 3, which is good, but not his usual self. It's his first time in his career shooting under 40% from 3. If we take out the one season, only played 5 games. And I mean, like I said, the first 2 months-ish of the season, month and a half, he was averaging 29 a game on 42% from 3, playing like an MVP candidate. Everyone, he had a lot of MVP hype at the beginning of the year. But since then, basically since the December started, so this is a long time, 24 points per game on 36% from 3, which is very like meh, not a superstar. Yeah, again, especially for him, not a superstar in my opinion. That he's that's not how he's played this year. So I'm comfortable putting him on the third team. Still deserves an All-NBA nod, but I don't have him in one of the top 2 teams. My other guard is DeMar DeRozan, who has been. I mean, he's had his ups and downs, but his up was very good. Had himself in the MVP race for a while.
Yeah.
Best season of his career, absolutely. 28, 5, and 5 per 36. 50% from the field, 35% from three. And in February, like I said, he put himself in the MVP race for a little bit. In February, 8 straight games with 35 or more points on 50% or better from the field, which is absurd. But like I said, best season of his career for sure. So, and he's been a superstar this year. So I'll put him up there.
Yeah, I have him at the forward spot as well. Like you said, tremendous all year. Led the Bulls for a while before they fell off a little bit, but that was somewhat expected with their first year of this kind of main group together. And then I got Jimmy Butler at the other forward. I wasn't a huge fan of putting him on here, but considering the Heat were the 1 seed, I felt I had to kind of give him the recognition. It's a little bit how I felt with Chris Paul too. Like his points numbers were down, but he's been super important for the Suns. So those were the reasons for those two.
My thing is Jimmy only played 57 games, so that bumps him down quite a bit for me. If he had played more, then yeah, like I'd agree, because again, you want someone from the Heat on there. They're the number 1 team in the conference. But I went with, so at my forwards I have LeBron, who yes, I did put LeBron James on an All-NBA team. Not that he's gonna not get it, because people are probably putting him on the first team like you, but he put up the numbers, and there's no denying that. Like I'm not gonna sit up here and give you a bunch of numbers as to why he sucked, but he put up really good numbers for a guy in his age 38 season. Absurd. But you can tell when, especially with LeBron, like when he's putting up numbers and he's LeBron, and when he's put up numbers and he's not LeBron. And this year was one of those years he put up numbers, but he was not LeBron. He did not have the winning impact he usually does. The team was a disaster, and I mean, he was not playing winning basketball. He was just putting up stats, and they were empty stats. Sometimes it was happening in garbage time. It was not like the impact he had. Again, you can look at the numbers and look at it and be like, wow, he was just as good as he has been before. Anyone watching those games, anyone who saw him play, like the impact he had was not remotely the same. And so I don't think he deserves. I definitely don't think he deserves first team. If you just want to look at the strict basic stats, then fine, there's a case for him to be first team or second team. But again, knowing that his numbers have not been they've not had the usual impact that they do, and he just has not had that usual winning impact that he does. So I think that bumps him down quite a bit. My other forward is, I don't know if this is gonna be surprising, but Jaylen Brown.
I think that's fair.
Kind of underrated. Like I feel like nobody talks about him too much. I feel like a lot of people have either Jimmy or like Pascal Siakam here, but Jaylen Brown per 36, 25, 7, and 4, pretty good efficiency. And again, I mean, him and Tatum have really stepped up, and the Celtics the second half of the season were awesome. So I think he deserves a nod here. I think he was slightly better than, again, he played enough games that I'll put him above Jimmy, and then I think he's been better than Siakam has. Siakam's been good, but I have Jaylen Brown ahead of him. So yeah, that's my forwards for the third team.
All right, and then I rounded off with Karl-Anthony Towns at third team. Obviously, he would have been my center at second team if Embiid's in there. Kind of as we talked. I think I know who your center is, but we'll see.
It is Rudy Gobert. And yeah, I do think, I mean, I think he deserves an All-NBA now. Dude, he's overhated in my opinion. And I kind of hate him too. Like, I'm not a Rudy Gobert fan, but his defense is fantastic. I think, honestly, he maybe should have, I don't want to say should have, but easily could have and maybe should have won Defensive Player of the Year again based on his impact and based on how he changes that team when he's in the game. And 17 points and 16 rebounds per 36, dominant on the glass. And again, the defense stuff, like the defense alone, I think just puts him right up there in that All-NBA conversation. So I don't have a problem having him on there. And again, he's another guy, like I actually want to include him on there. Like I think he deserves the recognition. And I'm not a Rudy Gobert fan. I don't like him. Like I do respect his defense. I respect the impact he has on his team. So Yeah, I'm very happy with how mine turned out. I'll just read mine off again. My first team is Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid. Your first team, Booker, Doncic, Giannis, LeBron, Jokic. My second team, Ja, Trey Young, Jason Tatum, KD, and Karl Towns. Your second team, Ja, Curry, KD, Tatum, Embiid. And my third team, Steph, DeMar, LeBron, Jaylen Brown, and Rudy Gobert. Your third team, Trey Young, CP3, DeMar, Jimmy Butler, and Karl Towns. So that does it for our all NBA teams. And we had a little recap of the Bucks Bulls game 1, a little game 2 preview. So we got game 2 tomorrow. We're going to try to, as many times as we can do post-game stuff, day after the game stuff, like recapping games, previewing the next game, previewing the next series, everything. With the playoffs, there's games every few days, and each game's so huge that it's like we want to break them down more, dissect them. So yeah, anything else you want to say, Brian?
One thing quick on Gobert, just because I think he's definitely in the conversation. I won't be surprised if he gets it. I just want to hear your opinion, because after watching the Jazz, a lot, well, not a lot, but with them being on the West Coast, they're on a lot at night. I can't tell you how many times this is one thing, and it's not his fault, but this is what sits in my mind a little bit, is he never touches the ball in the fourth quarter. Donovan Mitchell goes way too much isolation. That's why I've really strayed away from liking the Jazz. I still picked them over the Mavs, only because Luka, his injury status was up in the air. I was going to take Mavs otherwise. But I just wanted your take on that, because I think he should be getting the ball, but man, he doesn't get touches, especially in the fourth. I never see him touch the ball in the fourth quarter.
Well, there is the thing of, I don't know if you've seen like the numbers of like Donovan Mitchell really does not pass him the ball that much ever.
He doesn't. He's a ball hog overall.
Yeah, and I think there's some type of rift between them. I wouldn't be surprised if they're that's broken up this off season or whenever. So I think that's part of it. I mean, he isn't like Gobert is not the type of player that you want to give the ball to, like give it to him and let him go to work. Like he's just not that type of player. So I can understand from that perspective, but I still think there's got to be more of, pick and rolls and getting him the ball that way and lobbing and stuff like that. Like, obviously he's not the type of isolation player or anything like that, or a post player, but he's someone who you can use in pick and rolls and stuff. But again, so yeah, in the fourth, I'm sure, Donovan Mitchell is going to be more of an isolation player, and Rudy might not get as much the ball as much. But again, my reasoning mainly for having him on that third team is the impact he has defensively and what he does for grabbing rebounds and stuff. Because again, if you look at any of those impact numbers and how they're affecting their team when they're on the court compared to when they're off, Gobert is just nuts. And again, even like looking at the numbers of opponents' field goal percentage when that player is their closest defender, Gobert is like one of the best, if not the best in the league in terms of like making and it's it compares, okay, like how does a guy normally shoot, okay, now how does he shoot when this guy's defending him? And Gobert is one of the league leaders in making guys shoot worse than they usually do. So he's going up against a lot of centers, so like I think centers, like the guys he's going against, typically shoot like 50%, and against him they're shooting like 41% or 42%. So he's dipping them down a lot. So again, that type of stuff, the impact is what makes me put him third team. But like I said, I totally get what you're saying, and I think that's more of a Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert little rift issue, and them not just using them now they should be.
Keep one, trade one this offseason. Who are you keeping? Who are you trading?
I want to keep Gobert because I don't think you can get a Gobert.
I agree.
As easily as you can get a Mitchell. Like you can get guys who can get buckets. Overall, Mitchell's like the better player, but like impactful. And again, who can you go out and get to replace them? I'd rather keep Gobert and get another bucket getter.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, that does it for us. Go Bucks tomorrow. I'm expecting us to look a lot better. I'm expecting a much easier win, hopefully. I will be at the game. Brandon will obviously be at the game as well. So, let's go. I think they're giving out white T-shirts. So
Really? Okay. That'll be electric then. We got to get people to put those shirts on though. If you're at the game, put your shirt on.
The tees are back. All right. Bucks in 4, but Bucks in 6 for the culture as always.